So I was brought up in Christian teaching, and one of the areas that I remember well was the role of angels in Christianity, and which was a very literal message about the nature of angels as being people surrounded by light with huge wings who would appear just at particular times to deliver certain messages, like the Annunciation. And my friend was kind enough to lend me a book which explains some of the tenets of Islam, and one of them being about the role of angels in Islam, which seemed much, much wider and more, would metaphysical be the right word, not literal. I'd love to know more.
Rational.
Yes.
In a sense, yes.
Yes.
See, angels cannot have any material wings. That is one thing which must be ruled out once and forever, because they do not fly with the help of pushing the air, because the distances they cover apparently are so large that they move at a greater speed than the speed of light. So it's something else which we cannot understand. Wings are only wings only give messages, and the Holy Quran is very clear on this. According to the Holy Quran, angels have different wings, different number of wings, but at the same time the Holy Quran uses the word wing in relation to one's parents as well, in relation to anybody who is kind to others. He lowers his wing, which means wing is only a property, not, is a quality or attribute. So there are so many other verses which indicate that angels have no form. If they have any form, it is another dimensional form, which does not belong to our concept of dimensions. And that means they are just powers which are conscious, and conscious powers responsible for running various laws of nature. This is what I have summed up from the Holy Quran. All laws of nature are not self-driving. They are all governed and operated according to the Quran. And they are operated in accordance with the attributes God has granted to some specific angels in relation to some specific laws of nature. There can be many rational explanations of this, but I feel the most important is that you cannot find any contradiction in the laws of nature. If they were self-governed or not governed at all, there must have been some contradictions. Some laws must have worked against others. And this is what the Quran points out, that you have a glance cast over the entire universe in search of flaws and in search of contradictions. Your sight will return to you tired and frustrated. It will not find any contradiction. So lack of contradiction requires conscious operation. And that is what the Quran specifically presents angels as, some conscious being who are head of any set of natural laws. So all laws are governed and set in motion. What we see is just the laws, the end point. What we do not see is the ones who operate them. This explanation also applies to the Holy Ghost. According to the Quran, the Holy Ghost in reality is responsible for all the phenomenon of revelation, which he conveys from God to such people to whom he is sent. But he is not alone. He is a host of angels working under him for special areas of revelations. Revelations of great prophets of God are far more guarded and taken care of than the ordinary revelations or inspirations which we feel sometimes. There, the human psyche also has a part to play in our dreams, in our inspirations, in the feeling that we heard someone say this and that. All this is not specifically guarded because their messages are unimportant to the rest of the mankind. But where a prophet of God is made responsible to convey a clear message from God to the people, then that message must be fully protected. And over this phenomenon, the so-called Holy Ghost is responsible, he is in charge of all that relates to the revelation of prophets. But then again, he is mentioned in different forms, both by the Bible and New Testament and the Holy Quran, which shows that he has no personal form, because he is sometimes seen as a pigeon, sometimes as a grand display of God's glory from one end to the other, of say north and south or east or west. It depends on who is observing that phenomenon. So this is a changeable thing, that is the form of the angels, which means they are in fact apparitions. And the apparitions take form in accordance with the status of the person to whom they appear, or the status of the message which is given to a certain person. So, to cut a long story short, this is the concept of angels as it exists in the Quran, and also it exists in the earlier books, but people have tried to literalize the messages which were metaphorical. Thank you.